You want to go thrifting for fabric and craft supplies? Not here. No, no, no. 1,000 miles away. Last year, I took a road trip from LA to Chicago and back in this giant loop, and on the way I stopped at 16 creative reuse centers. 'Twas the birth of the spreadsheet, which thanks to viewers like you, now sports over 200 crafting thrift stores in America, not to mention a good-sized international page. And it's not an official goal, I guess, but unofficially, I'd really like to visit every single one. Why? 'Cause secondhand craft supplies are the frickin' best, and by proxy, so are the people who gather them up and put them in stores. Welcome to Seattle, Washington. I have never been up here. I've wanted to for ages because I've heard it's gorgeous, although right now it is sort of just the dead of winter, but still, mountains. And now I finally had a reason to visit. That reason is not hitting up all of Seattle's creative reuse stores, even though that's what we're focusing on here. I flew up for the Sewing and Stitchery Expo, which I mostly just hear people call Sew Expo. But I've given myself a little bumper time around the conference, and that bumper time starts today because the conference starts tomorrow. So, according to my spreadsheet, the state of Washington boasts a rather impressive dozen creative reuse stores. Way to go! But it is a big state, so according to my map, there are 7 of those creative reuse stores that are potentially within driving distance. I say potentially because 2 of them are on like islands or peninsulas, I guess, and I think I would either have to take a ferry to get there or do like this long roundabout driving path. I don't know, we'll try, but I can't make any guarantees. Let's go thrifting. But first, we must fuel up on this chilly but sunny day with coffee and pastries. Seattle Recreative actually has 2 locations here, and I'm starting with the most southward one, Georgetown. This place is big, warehousey in style, but with lots of twists and turns and separate little rooms created inside. They have a large classroom space, and I liked seeing a little kids area included in there too. They also have everything under the sun, although I noticed that they are a little lighter on the fabric options for my sewists out there. But oh my goodness, there were some of the most random and fun finds tucked throughout their corners, like this fancy cookie jar. These weird tube things that would make a great structural support in a garment, I think. Pre-cut glass bottles for planters, I suppose? A tub of antlers. Are they real antlers? I do not know. More zipper pulls than I have ever seen in one place in my life. A bucket of sand. I actually have so frequently thought, hey, I need sand, and wondered where I would get it. They also had a ton of easels. I saw they were actually having a 50% off sale at the moment, probably because they're not flying off the shelves, although if I wasn't flying home, I'd be taking one. There was a whole light box thing, a bunch of other big tools. I so enjoyed poring over every square inch of their shop and getting so many crafty ideas. I wanted to visit Pike Place Market on this first day of my trip, because if there's one thing I love even more than shopping for secondhand craft supplies, it's shopping for food. Food. Yay. Y'all, this place is massive. 9 acres according to the guy at the cider stand I visited. I kept going in new doors, finding new halls that I hadn't seen before, questioning which levels I'd been on, and then somehow always ending up right back where I started, like there's a magical never get lost spell on the whole thing. I did manage to find the one store that I was very particularly looking for though, Our Fabric Stash. This is a little store, but crammed with goodies and very neatly organized. As the name implies, it focuses specifically on the sewing arts, but I'm actually not sure how much of the merchandise is secondhand, as there were many bolts of fabric and such that looked like regular new fabric store stuff, you know? The prices were also more reflective of a regular fabric store rather than a creative reuse store, but there were some truly lovely materials and goodies here, so I highly recommend checking them out. We need more independent fabric stores bookstores, y'all. Joanne has left us. While on the hunt for our fabric stash, and in the free time I had afterward, I also managed to stumble upon my third favorite thing to shop for, books. I mean, if we want to go by quantity I actually purchased today, the list should be books, craft supplies, and then food. We start with Left Bank Books, a very cool multi-story shop with a cozy little nook upstairs. I have an unofficial policy that I must buy one book in every independent bookstore I visit, or maybe I'm allowed to buy one book, so I got Notes of a Crocodile. Then I found BLMF, didn't see what that stands for anywhere, which was delightfully, oh so delightfully stacked with used books up to the ceiling and down to the floor and every which way in between. I love stores like this. Also, I should say my unofficial policies are really just more like recognition of behavioral patterns. I got The Good Earth. Lamplight Books came next, cozily tucked in one of the more remote areas, or at least it seemed remote by the time I got there. This book called to me for some reason, I don't really know, but I went for it. Confederacy of Dunces. I then found Pine Books, which was a bit of a bigger operation, complete with a shop doggy. He got so many pets from me. I was immediately pulled to their wall of award winners from around the world, knowing that I could find some translated works for my Reading Around the World challenge. And then I couldn't freaking decide, so I ended up getting Hotel Silence, The Last Will and Testament of Senhor da Silva Ajuro? I think I said that wrong. And Baboon. Icelandic, Portuguese, Danish. Then the children's section called out to me because they had so many books that my parents used to read to us when I was a kid. So I caved and got Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. In between the fabric and the books, I also managed to find the little garden up on a higher pavilion with some great views of the harbor. I love a city on the water. It's almost like all that blank, open, rippling space balances out the massive hoard of metal and brick next to it, you know? There's some very cool seating all over Pike Place Market. I only filmed one, so you'll just have to trust me on that. This gum-covered art wall, I guess you could call it, hidden underneath. And an elephant teapot that I found it very difficult to resist. I had apple cider and mac and cheese from Beecher's, and when I finally felt I had seen at least most of the market, 'twas time to move on. Of course, I had to visit the second Seattle recreative location. I'm not sure which one came first, although I've heard it was this one. It's a little bit smaller, more of a typical storefront that they've still managed to pack tightly with every art and craft supply you can imagine. Still a little bit lower on the fabric volume, but plenty of paper and pencils and stamps and yarn and all that good stuff. Creative reuse stores also always have a solid supply of craft books. If you are ever in need of inspiration or instruction, you can find a bunch of it here for a pretty low price. Speaking of books, I happened to park right in front of a bookstore, so of course I had to go in. This was the Couth Buzzard, which has a cafe inside and such a lovely vibe. Lots of patrons were just hanging out third space style. Lots of used books mixed among the new as well. I picked up Alias Grace because it's kinda on my list, and this publication wasn't as giant and chunky as some of the ones I've seen. I had been hoping I'd have some extra time once I finished all of this, which was my main to-do list, and I did. So I headed back towards downtown and that whole complex of stuff to do around the Space Needle. My top priority in the time that I had left was actually not to go up and see the views, it was to visit Chihuly Garden and Glass. And hoo boy, was that ever the right choice. I really don't have much to say about this because it was just so incredibly awe-inspiring and beautiful. So please enjoy a short montage of the beauty. There was one more bookstore to my day though, the Elliott Bay Book Company, a huge and pretty well-known shop that instantly tempted me with the vast number of translated fiction they have just tucked among the general fiction section. I had so much trouble narrowing it down, but finally I decided to get Rosa Mystica by a Tanzanian author and The Simple Art of Killing a Woman by a Brazilian author. I finished the night with my one, fine dining dinner of the trip. Every time I go to a new city, I try to have one meal at a fancy restaurant, a fine dining one. No record of that, didn't take a single photo. But the chef overheard me saying that I was here for a sewing conference, and he was like, "Oh, have you heard of the Stitch Cafe?" Apparently it is a cafe, coffee shop kind of thing that was started by people who are into either sewing, knitting, or crochet. I couldn't really get the vibe fully from the map listing, but I'm gonna try to visit there. I don't know if it'll be possible with the remainder of my schedule, but we'll see if we can pop by at some point. And if you live in Seattle, or if you're ever visiting Seattle, have you been to the Stitch Cafe? Or go to the Stitch Cafe. It sounds like such a cool idea. Anyway, do you want to see what I got at the Creative Reuse stores yesterday? My purpose here is not to shop, especially because everything I buy has to fit in my suitcase, and clearly I got a lot of books. I'm visiting these more just to see them, to appreciate them, to share them with you, but of course, I can't resist doing a little bit of shopping. So at the first Seattle Recreative, I got a container of wooden cubes. I've been kind of starting to collect little bits of wood stuff for potential future miniature making projects, and I just had never seen a bag of wooden cubes, so I was like, cool, I'ma get that. And then they had all of these really beautiful, brightly colored sashes in a tub. They say on them hand woven in Guatemala. Absolutely stunning. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. It's 4 times that length, but it was just too pretty to resist. Also, you know me and a rainbow. We love each other. And finally, they didn't have a lot of fabric, but they had one that immediately caught my eye. It was taped up, so I didn't even unroll it first to see what it is. I just saw on the outside here what appears to be an anthropomorphic potato. So I had to grab it. Turns out it's actually IKEA fabric, which I don't remember ever seeing this in IKEA, and I think it's probably supposed to either be for curtains or for a tablecloth, because the design is straight down the center. But y'all, oh my god, I'm dying. It's the cutest thing in the world. I'm gonna have to find something amazing to do with this. It's got all of these little fruits and veggies having a great time. Look at the cucumbers swinging, and these guys having tea together, and this kid just living his best life. I love this so much. IKEA, man, where's all your cute fabric now? So then at the second place, our fabric stash. Honestly, the prices were a little high for me, but they had a couple of this knit material that is just so freaking soft. It is just the softest thing you will ever touch, and I couldn't resist getting some. This is beautiful pale pastel tie-dye all over it. I mean, look at how gorgeous, and it just feels amazing. I immediately was like, oh my god, either a comfy knit dress or one of my jumpsuits that I love wearing. This would be perfect for it. And finally, at the second Seattle Recreative, nothing was hugely standing out to me until I saw cones. These were literally 5 cents each. So I got 8 of them for 40 cents. And I grabbed them because if I go in the direction of rug tufting, which it's kinda seeming like I will, I guarantee I'm going to be just buying random yarn instead of the yarn that is already on cones like this and meant for rug tufting. So these mean that I can recoil it myself onto these things and stick them on my little wooden box and do tufting. So that was all for day 1. That was a lot of stuff I managed to do in one day. The conference actually starts today in an hour. but I don't have any classes scheduled today. I don't have anything that I need to be at the conference for, so I assume I will just be sort of walking the expo floor. Therefore, I'm gonna take the opportunity to hit up 2 other creative reuse stores that are more in that southward direction. I'm doing a lot of hand motions for you here. 2 more in the southward direction. There's 2 more stores down there, so I think I'm gonna go to one and then to the conference and then to the other. Let's do it. But first, yes indeed, more coffee. We're heading down to Olympia to visit Lost and Found Crafts, and let me tell you y'all, 'twas worth the drive. Such a fun store, such delightful people there. This looks to be another one that blends secondhand and new supplies, so you've got loads of options like ink and stickers and scrapbook paper in every possible color, needlecraft supplies, plenty of yarn. They've got the secondhand fabric chunks in one corner and then lots of beautiful quilting cottons throughout the store, not to mention just some absolutely gorgeous quilts on display. In fact, the whole store is littered in the most positive sense with beautiful artwork of all the crafty kinds. This tiny library in a tin was stealing my heart. I want to make one of these, but then also emotional support pickle? I love him. There's a good-sized area on the back with tables set up for, I assume, classes and meetups, and there were already several ladies just chilling back there doing their work and chatting. All in all, such a lovely store, well worth a trip down here or up here or over there if you're anywhere nearby. I drove north again to Puyallup to stop at the actual expo that I'm here for, and I will tell you some about that whole thing in a little bit, but for now I want to focus on the fact that I was reminded of a creative reuse store I'd left off my list while I was there. In the vendor hall, Remakery had a booth set up, and it took me like half a second of glancing at it to go, hey, wait a minute. This is a creative reuse store. I think when I originally added them to the creative reuse spreadsheet, they either didn't have a permanent location yet, or I just thought that they didn't for some reason, so I hadn't added them to my actual Washington visit list. I'm so glad they were at the expo to remind me. I ended up staying at the expo for less than 2 hours that day, because after walking the whole vendor floor and having some lovely chats with some lovely people, I didn't have much more to do without any classes booked. Therefore, I headed over to Tacoma for more creative reuse goodness. Y'all, Tacoma is a cool place. There's some really fascinating architecture, even just in the one area where I stopped. My first priority was Tinkertopia, and ooh, this is such a cool store! I spent so long poring over every little nook and cranny here, because it is absolutely jam-packed with so much fun stuff. And the artwork. It started outside in the windows with these adorable mice living their best lives. Also, you can get a little kit inside to make your own mouse. And then continued all over the store, every place you turned, even upward to the ceiling. There's a lot of collecting of unwanted material in this shop, lots of inspiration for makers of all kinds in the form of what others might call trash. I loved the sense of humor floating through the entire establishment too. Once I had finished poking my nose in all of Tinkertopia's corners, I did some wandering outside. I was hoping to visit the Museum of Glass, and I guess I technically did, only I didn't have time to actually go through it due to some very strict parking rules. However, just the bridge of glass to get there and the lobby and the gift shop felt like a museum experience in themselves. This is hardcore, making me want to dump everything and learn glass blowing, like right now. I got myself a few glass beads to commemorate the overall glass art wonders of this trip. Then I popped over to the Tacoma Public Library, which has a community space downstairs where Remakery lives. I had to go see the actual location. I loved this shop. It was so bright, and it had a big creative space with a table and a couch and good machines for sewists to use. It also had the most secondhand fabric of any of the creative reuse stores I've seen here, plus a really large supply of yarn. There was a solid collection of other craft materials too, and even a whole bin of free materials outside. Well worth stopping by, especially for sewists and fiber artists in the area, since Tinkertopia leans more towards the other forms of making. Well, we gotta do a little show and tell of what I got yesterday, yeah? It's tradition, because I did it once. I'm starting to get slightly worried about my suitcase space, but I'm really trying not to buy much. I just want to support all these stores. So first off, at Lost and Found Crafts, they had some amazing books. So I got this one, Connecting Design to Stitch. It's really absolutely stunning work in here. The author and artist is Sandra Meach. So I'm excited to look through that some more. This one is on iris folding, which I have a project in mind, kinda, I don't know, I think this is just a thing that I want to try. So it was really cool to find a whole book on it, especially because this has some like really complex patterns in it, and I was gonna have to just like scour the internet looking for stuff. So now I have it in a physical book. They had so much beautiful fabric, which I could not let myself get. So I got 1 yard. I just allowed myself 1 yard. I thought this fabric was really pretty. It's like all of these brightly colored dots. Of course it's not gonna focus on that. All of these dots. And it reminds me of like the painting style that is done that way. Yeah? Next place I went, well, was technically Remakery, but the Remakery stand at Expo, and I got some fabric. I couldn't resist. You know I love me some blue and white, so I had to grab this one. It's like a nice light material, and there's 3.5 yards, so enough for me to make like a dress. And then this one, it's pineapples. There's pineapples on the fabric. And I love that for some reason. So yeah, it caught my eye. It's also like really smooth and a great texture. But the thing that really caught my eye was this stack of squares. 10 by 10, 42 pieces of quilting cotton, essentially. I love the color scheme. There was another stack like this that was blue and white without like the brown coloring in it, and I was very much debating between the two, but I do love this like soft browns with the blues in here. So I have a specific project in mind that is the reason I got all of this, and I'm sure you'll see much more of it whenever I finally get to that project. Which probably won't be anytime soon, but it's there. Oh God, it shedded all over me. Next place I went was Tinkertopia. They didn't really have as much fabric, and of course, like all of the small little bits of stuff are so inspiring, and I'm like, cool projects you could make from all of that, but like, I can't get that when I'm traveling and when I'm flying home on a plane. They did have a good chunk of this stuff, whatever you call this stuff, which again, upcoming project, I'm kind of trying to just gather a bunch of this fabric, this like backing fabric for needlework. So it was just nice to see a chunk of it for fairly inexpensive. Huzzah. And then they had a bunch of like little art pieces and stuff, I assume made by local artists. This one is called the Pocket Wizard Watercolor Sketchbook. It's a teeny tiny little sketchbook. It's so cute. I love a teeny tiny book. And then of course I went to Remakery, their actual location. And again, I was like, I already got stuff from the booth. I don't need to get anything here. But just like the stuff from Tinkertopia, I saw a chunk of this. It's like burlap. And again, I have an upcoming project that I want this kind of stuff for. So it's nice to find things that are literally like, oh, that's a project that I want to do. How convenient. It would be more convenient if I didn't have to cram it in a suitcase and fly home with it. Oh well. So the next 2 days here are just the conference for me. I don't really have any plans beyond going to the expo and coming back, although I did realize that there's just like a regular fabric store that I've been following on Instagram for quite a while, Wildwood. I had no idea what their location was, but I found out yesterday it's like 10 minutes away from me. So I might pop by there, but really, let's just have a little expo montage. Yeah? But first, well, you know the drill. I didn't actually film very much at the expo since there were generally people all over and I don't like showing faces on my channel without their consent. But suffice it to say, So Expo is a lot of fun and has a lot of potential. I think right now, as it is well worth your time to pop in for at least a day if you're anywhere within driving distance. A day ticket was just $17 and the shopping alone is great, but you can also pop over to one of the free lectures or sign up last minute for a paid class. Very few of them were sold out in advance. In my opinion, it's not currently worth the travel expenses to fly in for this expo unless you're really interested in a lot of the classes, like at least 3, if not more, per day. Otherwise, there's not a lot to do between classes once you've walked the expo floor and done your shopping. However, I did talk to one of the organizers at the end and they said they're interested in continuing to develop this expo and add more to it so that it has a bigger draw, not just for locals, but also for sewists all over. So I'm super interested to see how they continue to grow in the future. I attended some lectures on embroidery and sleeve making and took classes on some braiding methods and corded quilting, so that was really cool. I also got to meet lots of lovely, incredible, creative people, so a huge thank you to everyone who came and said hi. I don't get a lot of opportunities to meet my viewers in person, and it really does mean so much to me. In my downtime, I also just walked to the nearby town center and had lunch at Lazy Ballerina Wine Bar, which was so unassuming outside and so freaking cute inside. And then I went to Catfination and did much petting of kitties, which was an absolute delight. Look at the toe beans! There are 2 more creative reuse stores, and they're the Peninsula and Island ones. I would really like to go to both, but I know for a fact that one of them is unfortunately not gonna happen because they're closed Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and I'm gone tomorrow. So just a little shout out to Spread Supplies. I'm sorry I didn't get to visit, but it's there. The one that is left that I can visit is Little Island Crafts, which is on Bainbridge Island. Ironically, I was there yesterday. I actually, instead of going to the last day of So Expo, I had signed up for a writing retreat that was being held at Bloedel Reserve, I believe is how you pronounce it. Absolutely gorgeous. And then I took the ferry back right at sunset. That was absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, Little Island Crafts was closed. So now I'm gonna drive my way back onto the island. I think we're gonna skip the ferry this time. It was kind of a whole process. And that's kind of the only plan for today. I saw there was a bookstore nearby. But first, here's some footage of the reserve and the ferry trip, because that was really pretty. There was indeed a nearby bookstore, but also there was a nearby lot of stuff, because this area is like a fun town center thing for Bainbridge Island. Ice cream shops, bakeries, art galleries, gift shops, home decor stores, and all those delightful types of establishments you find in places like this. Little Island Crafts was lovely, a really bright space with all sorts of crafting bits and bobs. Looked like it was again that sort of mix between new items and secondhand, which is always nice. They didn't really have much in the way of fabric, and I didn't end up getting anything there, but there was also a marvelous fabric store down the street, and ooh, y'all, they had some of the most beautiful and fun fabrics I've seen in a long time. Not just quilting cottons either. Look at this gorgeous Italian linen. I feel like it's so rare to see a linen with a detailed print on it like that. I couldn't resist getting myself a few fat quarters there. Honestly, I would have gotten a lot more if it weren't for my growing concern about my suitcase space. Despite those concerns, I had to comply with my go in an independent bookstore, buy a book unofficial policy. So after browsing every nook and cranny of Eagle Harbor Book Company, these bookstores have got to stop tempting me with these amazing walls of puzzles. I chose not one, but two to take home. I'm weak, I can't help it. I mean, I also came really close to getting one of these jellyfish lamps at this amazing store full of local art, but I managed to resist that. Yay for me, I guess. Then 'twas back on the ferry to Seattle, cause the long way around was just way too long, and the ferry is fun. That's about it for me. It's been a lovely week. Seattle is gorgeous. I'm really glad that I got to also visit like a bunch of the surrounding areas, go to a lot of the smaller towns, as well as downtown. If it's this pretty in late February, early March, I imagine it's absolutely gorgeous here in the summer when all the trees are green. And yeah, I quite enjoyed my week. I'm really ready to go home. I miss the puppy, but I had quite a fun time. I hope you enjoyed coming along. I got quite a bit of fun stuff. I'm a little nervous about getting this all in my suitcase. It was like way under when I came here. I packed the bare minimum of clothing and everything, but like, I'm still concerned. Wish me luck. Hey, psst, you wanna go crafting, thrifting for fabric and craft supplies? Hey, psst, you wanna go crafting? No. Hey, psst, you wanna go thrifting for crafting and Hey, psst, you wanna go thrifting for crafting and Hey, psst, you wanna go crafting for What are you focused on?